Cole.
Here.
Councilman Costello.
Here.
Supervisor Thurston.
I don't think he heard you.
He's here remote. Okay,
So I'm here,
Can you hear us?
delayed.
oh, it's a bit of a delay.
Yes, I hear you.
Good, so then we can.
Okay,
go
thank you.
to-
Okay, everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance on this Flag Day. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. I apologize that I'm not able to be there tonight for the first time. I have a vacation with our grandchildren who I have not seen since December of 2019, so this was the only week we could get together. So tonight I'll be asking the clerk and Mr. Beal and Mr. Haran to help, since I can only see the board. I can't see any of the audience, so I apologize, for that. First, I'd like to have a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. The next item is the motion to acknowledge the minutes of the May 21st meeting. A motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Yep.
I froze again. Motion and second,
Yes.
Yes.
all in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, it's not working. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
The ayes have it.
Okay. Now, we're having problems. So the first item on the agenda is the financial update by Frederick Owino, our controller.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, Frederick. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frederick.
Send it to me on email.
I want to take this opportunity to thank you for giving me the time to give a financial highlight or financial update of the town of Wapinja financials as of May 31, 2021. I will be highlighting revenue items, some of the changes that we have noted since the last time I presented, which was May 10, and also the expenditures, where we are in fund balance, and also probably some areas of concern. As you may have noted, we normally get updates of the mortgage tax from Dutchess County. And I want to report that mortgage tax has been doing well. We saw a slight decrease from April to May, but overall, in terms of the average, the last time I presented, the average was 90,000. Now we are looking at an average of 99,000 per month. So if you were to close the year right now, I would be happy to report that we have met our budgeted mortgage tax amount, which was 450,000, because now we are reporting about 496,000 as of May 31, 2021. My only hope is that this trend continues, and assuming that it's the same average up to the end of this year, we are likely to see this revenue tax being reported at 1.1 million. even though we may have some good news on the mortgage tax, there's court fees and fines, which has not been doing well. There was actually a decline from 40,000 that was reported in March to 25,000 in April. Out of this 25,000 that was received, only 9,000 was allocated to the town by New York State. Our revenue to date on that line is only 51,000, and we are averaging 12,000 a month. So this is an item that we have to look at very closely, but hopefully things will improve with the coming months. Another major revenue item is building permits. And I'd like to report that on this item, there was actually an increase from the month of April to May from 31,000 to 34,000. And we are averaging 30,000 a month. Total collections January through May, we are at 151,000. If this continues, we should have no problem actually meeting this budget on this line. In summary, revenue received in the A fund, which is one of our major funds, the townwide, is at 3.3 million, which is 80% of the budget. In the B fund, 493,000, which is 35% of the budget. And in the highway, also 80%, 3.3 million. On the expenditure side, I would like to say that most of the areas were still under budget, but there are a few lines that are of concern. And if you remember, in the month of March, when I reported on the financials, I started to highlight that these are items that we need to watch closely. Telephone line. In the past, we have used various telephone lines for various departments, but we decided to consolidate these telephone expenditures into one line. And right now we are at 19,000 year to date, even though we only budgeted 18,000.
So just a question on that. How much have we actually paid out the full 19,697?
Yes, we have.
So shouldn't you, when you see that we're getting that close to the budget line, come to us a little bit earlier and say, listen, we've got an exposure here. We need to take a look at this. Going to need to transfer some funds. And we should also understand why we're over.
So what is happening here is that if you look at my report in March 8th, I actually highlighted this very item. And these are utilities that we have to pay. Actually, in the past, we've had to pay a lot of fees and fines by deciding to hold on payment of these items. These are utilities that we have to pay on time. So on March 8, I did highlight that this item, we were actually already at 50%, 60%. And also, if you look at my report of April 12th, I also highlighted the same item. So we will continue highlighting them. And I think what happened is that the board didn't formally make a resolution to transfer from another line to this item so that it doesn't get overexpended. But utilities, you have to pay. You don't want your funds to be disconnected. Electricity, we have to pay. We don't want our electricity to be cut. These are things that are routine, that's coming every month. And our job, I think, is just to highlight. And I think what happened in March and April, we didn't go ahead and formally transfer, but the board was aware of these lines.
Don't you have a report data that you generate for us? And I think it's a pretty good report that shows the expenditures quarter to date or year to date. And as you see that going above the 42 percentile mark, which is roughly 5 months of the year, if you see something at 60, 70, 80%, and again, I know some things are one-time shot, they're probably earlier on in the year, but as you see things going towards that, say 40, 45%, that should be stuff that you should highlight to us that we need to know in case there's going to be an overage. You know, do we have to take money from fund balance? How are we going to pay for it? Do we cut back other spending to accommodate for that? Those are the kind of things we should be focusing on.
I agree.
We need to do a better job.
Right. So we will continue to highlight these items to the board. I think going forward, I think like today, if the board agrees, we can then make the transfer so that we don't have to report on the same issue again next time, because we know they are over and we are continue to going to spend on these lines. So if the board is in agreement, today, maybe through a motion, maybe because we don't have a resolution, you could transfer perhaps something like 30,000, because we are at 5 months and already at 20,000, to see us towards the end of the year. The same would be for this miscellaneous line, which is A16450, which we are at 100%, 40,000 so far spent, even though on this line we did incur some deep cleaning expenses because of the COVID exposure, which we had to do. It was something that was sudden, the town had to be closed and the amount had to be spent. So that would be my request, that we go ahead and make a motion to transfer money from fund balance so that this thing is under control.
So for the first expenditure of the 19,697, you're recommending that we do a fund transfer of 20,000, and what are you recommending for 1620.450? How much?
I would recommend 30,000 because we are at the 5 months and it's already 20,000. So assuming it's going to be the same, average, I think 30,000 should be able to see us through the end of the year.
Is any of that COVID exposure cleaning, is that any of that reimbursable? I know there was, Bill, do you know anything about that?
Not for that, not for the cleaning materials.
No.
Okay.
For PPE and things like that, but.
But that's an understandable, overture. I mean, it wasn't in the budget, COVID hit, nothing you could do for $10,800, so certainly understand that.
Right, I think for the transfers that are required, I think that should be a resolution. I don't think we should be doing those on the fly, to be honest with you.
I
I'm just
agree.
curious to know why the telephone cost has doubled.
So most of the various departments used to have their telephone lines within those departments. A good example is parks. But these telephone lines, including the town board parks, highway, HR, town clerk, they were all consolidated on this one line. And so that's why it looks like it's over.
So it includes the cell phones also?
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So in the future, what we should do during budget time is break the cell phones out from the landline.
Yes.
So do we have this covered in another line item then? So in total, we're okay, just this particular line item's over?
Consolidating
Yeah, I think that we're going to have to,
Okay.
see, when we went remote for X number of months, we had to facilitate cell phones for virtual meetings. So that's why we're over that line. So that makes me feel a little more comfortable. Relative to the transfer, I think that we still should do it by resolution at the next meeting so that we
I
can
agree.
codify why we're doing it. And then when we get into the budget time period, let's break the cell phones into a separate line so that we can,
So we make sure we take
See
into
it.
consideration, sure.
yeah.
Yep, I agree.
That's
Frederick,
all.
when you get a chance, could you give us a breakdown, why it went so far over? I mean, if whatever remote, like Bill said, remote expenses were X, and without that, this is where we would be, that would be helpful.
Yeah, so I do have a breakdown of all the cell phone expenses from the beginning of the month to date. And as Bill has said, when we had this COVID, most of the staff members were given cell phones to do the Zoom and to be able to communicate. And that is one major reason. But another reason is that we decided to use just one line instead of dividing it among different departments. To
Right,
use one.
so-
So it appears like it's,
So historically, the budget has had telephone line items for each department as they maintained different phone numbers. And one of the things we did with the new system is we created that single 7-digit number, And now all the departments basically are coming out of the same line instead of having different lines for each department, different appropriation lines, right?
Right.
I'm not going to get stressed out over $10,000 or $20,000 here relative to COVID because we have the American Rescue funding that will be coming in, which is $2 million. So I understand from a budgetary standpoint, we want it to look clean and everything like that, but we're going to have COVID expenses.
Right.
And the idea of the federal funding is to offset anything that was not reimbursable.
As you said, for next year, though, it'd be nice to know where our baseline is.
It's going to be tough next year because this year's been an anomaly.
Yep.
And when we look at the Justice Court, when we look at the fines and assessments through court fees, we have to be careful not to overthink this because this, number one, court fees and fines are not supposed to be used as revenue, right? That said, we can't look at this year's revenues and determine budgetarily where we're going to be for next year. We need to look at the previous full year.
I think you look at the last couple of years on that line,
Yeah,
and I mean, that's
yeah.
how you can determine it, because you're right, this year's an anomaly.
Yeah, because unfortunately, due to the court being closed and due to the court not being able to process and dispose of cases the same as they had previously, the number's going to be way off. So again, I'm not going to get too stressed out over that difference there because we will have funding coming in from the federal government that we can utilize for certain things for the courts also, if we
And
choose
if you
to.
look at the court fees and the fines, right, it's in the same fund as the mortgage tax coming in significantly more, so it more than offsets. So, okay, thanks, Frederick.
Thank you.
Other lines that we need to continue to monitor closely, HVAC maintenance. Just last week or the last 2 weeks, we had some issues with the HVAC, which is now under control. So we had to do some repairs here and there. And we'll be monitoring this line closely. And as you have suggested, we may have to include a transfer for this line because we're already at 66%.
Is any of that reimbursable at all? Because we've had some issues with our HVAC systems.
We tried to do a reimbursement through FEMA, but we didn't qualify because we didn't meet the baseline. We had to spend a certain amount of money for the PPE equipment, but we did not meet that. So unfortunately, the town will have to eat all these expenses. So the answer is no.
Okay.
Yeah. Other lines, engineer line, we are at 39%. I picked this one because we still have quite a bit of bills that we haven't processed yet. We have only processed up to the month of March, so April and May, we are still receiving and processing. So it may appear that it's only 39%, but I know more are coming. Recycle center personnel, health insurance. I think we should be okay with health insurance because we have reported up to June. So this amount includes the month of June. So 55% for half the year. The last time expenditure item is the summer director playground. This is a line that we have been using to pay our receptionist. And we're at 14,000, which is that percentage of the budget. What had happened is that the town board had approved a line to be transferred, a line to be created through resolution number 2018-148 to cater for these expenses for part-time receptionists. But money was actually never transferred to this line. So because that employee used to use the B7310-101, that is the line we continued to pay that employee. But now we need to, through a resolution as Bill has suggested, make a budget transfer so that we can cover the expenses so far on this line. In summary,
Let me
expenditure.
just say one thing relative to that position, just to
Yeah.
clarify. The summer director for the playground, as you mentioned, had been reassigned to be the COVID receptionist, the person that's checking people's temperatures and making sure we're COVID compliant, okay? It's important to note that. That individual now had to be reassigned to fulfill their actual summer director of playground responsibilities.
Right.
Therefore, I do not have an objection to an individual being placed into the COVID receptionist role, because we're still not done with COVID. However, I do think we do need a resolution just to codify that move and to make sure that it's funded properly, because when we look back at this budget, we're not going to see that, we're going to see summer director playground, and we're going to see it over by 183%. We're not going to understand if we look back historically as we look back on our budget. So if we can make sure that we have a resolution that indicates another position was created for COVID, the COVID checkpoint, I think it's going to be better budgetarily. So that said, we need a resolution to be created for moving forward.
So we should, in the budget cycle, create a separate line item for that that's distinct from the position that currently is being used.
Correct. Correct. So we should actually,
And we should do it now, is what we should do.
well, I think that by resolution, there should be a position created with a corresponding budget line that you recommend over the next 2 weeks. This way, it goes in the budget and we can see it. It is a COVID position. It could potentially be reimbursable, but I don't think we're going to hit the
Clip level.
right envelope there.
You don't do it over.
But that said, rather than doing it on the fly here, having that resolution prepared for the next meeting, and Jim, if you disagree, let me know, relative to the position, the COVID checkpoint position, have a resolution created that codifies that position, because right now, we're still paying that person out of the recreation summer playground line.
For potential reimbursement by COVID.
I don't have a lot of faith that we're gonna get reimbursed, but I think just having it in the budget is gonna be good practice so that we know that this amount of money went to the COVID checkpoint, and this amount of money
Frederick,
went to the playground.
has the Controller's Office issued any kind of amendments regarding budget lines for, I mean, I would think that would be like a public health line or public safety line. I don't know if the Controller's Office, I haven't seen anything from the Controller's
Well, we have
Office.
we have the disaster preparedness line that we've maintained in the budget,
Yeah.
but the controller's office, as far as I know from the county perspective, everything is accounted totally separate from the general fund budget, but there's no New York State Controller codes that I'm aware of at this point for COVID.
Right.
Right, that was
Right.
basically the question I was.
It might be worth looking into, though,
Yeah.
so that we can, I mean, what that would mean is there would be a, you know how we do 1010.100. It would be a separate code specific to COVID, and might be a separate fund, a separate acronym.
Well, I mean, I think it'll come out of the A fund. It's probably, I mean, there's public health and public safety lines.
Yeah.
So.
So if we can
you
look
know,
at that
it might
over
go
the
in there,
next
I don't know.
2 weeks, if we can look at that and make sure that we have all of our COVID expenses properly assigned, even if the miscellaneous expenses can be put under that, this way we can see it when we look back on this
I
budget,
agree. And it's transparency.
So the line that we had, that was proposed in 2018 was line A 1220-106. 1220 is part of the supervisor's department line. So that was the one that was created for part-time receptionists for this. We look at it and see whether we need a new line that's not
Yeah,
that. But,
I understand we created that position within his line, but I think because this was specifically COVID-related, I think it should be coded, as Jim suggests, under public safety, public health, whatever this way we can see it.
Okay.
And we can work
I
on
I have
that.
no objection to what Councilman Beal is proposing at all.
Thank you.
So there is a line, A410, 4010.1, public health personal service.
There you go. So
Okay.
we're not going to do it right here, we're not going to do it right now, but that way, that's going to segregate these expenses and put them in a proper category.
Or agreed.
There's also 4050, which is public health other.
Again, the Controller's
One of the-
Office may have an opinion on this
Right.
already.
Yeah, I don't,
They're probably going to say what you just said.
So Frederick, can you just check on
but
that
it's
to
not
see?
that.
what-
Yeah, so I have
Let us
the
know.
1410,
4010 and 4050.
4010 and 4050.
4010,
It's all A fund anyway, it's just,
Right.
it's just an
the line
appropriation.
item, Yep.
right. Okay, so we look into that because I have a program that lists all the codes. In summary, expenditure is 1.9 million for the general townwide, 41%, B fund 30%, highway 1.5 million at 36%, and our cash balances are 2.2 million in the A fund, B fund 5.8, highway 4.6 million. Our estimated fund balances 1.1 million in the general townwide, in the B fund 5.1 million, in the highway 2.5, and in the Parkland Trust. I did make an adjustment to include Little League improvement and United Soccer League improvement, 5,000 each, to come out of the Parkland Trust. So the estimated fund balance as of May is 467,000.
Yeah, so what he's talking about with those two 5,000s, way back when, before COVID hit back in March of 2020, we set aside $5,000 each for both soccer and Little
Right.
League for improvements, something we had put together, and we were going to pay for it out of Parkland Trust. So that's the additional $10,000 as he's talking about. Yeah, I do have a question for you. On the stimulus funds, the $2.93 million, we're still expected to get that on June 30th, correct?
Yeah, that is still my hope. We haven't received any additional.
Do we know the
communication.
split between the village and the town?
Again, that has not been made known. I don't know what formula they will use, probably based on population.
Yeah, it's based on population.
Okay.
The only problem is that, at least land area, right, well, there's one ward in the village that's in the town of Poughkeepsie.
Right,
So-
one village ward.
Right, one village ward in the town of Poughkeepsie.
Is it population or assessed value?
It's population.
Population. So we need to know, we're going to need to have that determined before the money comes. My understanding is it's going to be a 50-50 split, 50 this year and 50% next year. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
That's correct. Correct.
Should it be based on population?
That's what he just
That's
said.
that's what he just said, so,
There's 4,205 people in the Wappinger side of the village.
yeah,
How many people are on the Poughkeepsie side?
I believe 900.
900 what?
I believe there's 900 people on the town of Poughkeepsie
That's
side.
not 50/50.
No, we're talking about two different things here. We're talking about 50% of the appropriation from the American Rescue Plan would come in the fiscal year 2021, and then 50% would be in fiscal year 2022. The question was, has a formula been developed by the Comptroller's Office on how much the village would be getting and how much the outside the village would get? We don't have anything,
I thought you meant the town of Poughkeepsie.
No. no, the town of Poughkeepsie is getting their own funding.
No, the 50/50 is part of the 2.93 million he was talking about.
So my point was, we should have that number figured out before the money arrives, so that we know the formula. I mean, that's something the state controller's office theoretically would have figured out, right? Before June 30th? Otherwise, my opinion is, we don't spend any of the money until we have that formula in place.
Yeah, I
Right,
mean,
of course.
so it raises, so the issue there is that, my understanding is, so there is no specific allocation for a village. And the village allocation is based on population, that portion of the population as opposed to the overall population of the town. So if it's, ballpark, the town's numbers now is what?
30,000.
Yeah, so, 20, depending on the estimate you look at, of
Well,
course.
that's the other issue,
You know,
is do we use 2010?
Then you got to know if you're using Census 2010, because we don't have Census 2020. So all these things should not be a question, in my opinion. We should have this all figured out before the money even, and then when the money comes in, Frederick, I assume it comes into a separate restricted fund that we have.
Yes, we will. We can open a separate account or put it in one of our other accounts, but designate it separately.
Yeah, I would say, Jim, and you can correct
Because
me
I'm
if
sure
wrong.
the federal government will want a full accountability.
Right, it should be segregated from the other funds. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's, right now, the statute itself doesn't have any reporting obligations on it. It just has some topics that it's to be spent on.
right.
And my understanding is the U.S., in addition to the New York State Controller's Office, the Federal Treasury Office is also going to be implementing regulations as well.
So we'll make sure our ducks in a row.
Right.
Yeah, we should have our formulas all lined up so we know exactly what we're going to get.
I mean, as far as
Should be no question.
the distribution goes, it will be Albany that will make the call as to what does the village get and what does the town get.
Right.
I mean, subject to, we could certainly appeal the determination if it's way out of whack, but my understanding of the way the statute is written is for this community and the village, the money goes to Albany and then is distributed to us. At the county level and at the city level, the larger cities get money directly from the feds. And I know the county gets money directly from the feds.
And we need to also understand specifically what this money can be spent on. There most likely will be guidance on that.
Well, there is in the statute itself.
Okay.
It's basically COVID-related expenses, water and sewer infrastructure, and, some other.
I think
items.
you gave us the list, I think, two meetings ago or something, the
Okay.
criteria, so I think we have it.
Okay,
But they're very specific, as you said.
right.
Okay, thank you.
So that concludes my report, unless there's any other additional questions.
Thank you, Frederick.
Thank you.
Frederick.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Frederick, Thank you.
Supervisor, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Keep changing it, sorry, thank you.
There you go.
Next item is to hold a public hearing for the resolution introducing the proposed local law entitled Town of Wappinger Cross Connection Control Law. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Jim Haran, would you just explain again for the board what this
Sure.
motion does?
So this is a law that's required by the New York State Health Department, and it requires, New York State Health Department requires all public water supplies to put in place what are called cross-connection controls. And what they are designed to do is to prevent non-potable water sources from mixing with the public potable water source supplies, as well as any kind of sewage or other fluids, for lack of a better word, that might be present on a commercial or industrial site. It's, a relatively technical law. We've been following it. We have, procedures in place. It's just that our code was pretty old, and it just mentioned that they had to be in place, but had no specific. Basically, what it requires are RPZ, which is reduced pressure zones, valves, which creates, in essence, an air gap and things like that, so that there's no contamination into the backup of contaminants into the public water supply.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Haran.
Sure.
Does anybody in the audience in attendance have any comments on this particular proposal? If so, please come up to the podium and identify yourself and give your comments within 3 minutes. Thank you. Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Hold on for 1 second. There is an individual standing up, Supervisor.
Oh, okay.
Sure, thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. Is this the public portion?
This is just relative to the local law we discussed,
Right.
which is the connection law.
Right. Cross-connection.
Just a cross-connection control law, that's all.
Again,
this is.
any further comments?
Is it relative to the,
Portion in 5, is that this right now? Hearing.
this is the
This is number
portion-
4.
Yeah, this is just the public hearing for the local law at this point. Go ahead, Supervisor.
So we have a motion on the table to
Okay.
close.
Do we have a motion?
Second?
Close. Okay, a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you very much. The next item, we will go into public hearing. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing on the agenda items?
So this would be the public portion of the meeting.
Yeah, public portion, I'm sorry, the public portion of the meeting on agenda items.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. So are there any comments on the agenda items that are stated on the agenda for tonight?
We do have an individual coming to the podium, Supervisor.
Okay, so please identify the agenda item, your name and address.
I'm Robin LaCarey. I live at 15 Red Hawk Hollow Road in Wappingers Falls. The issue on the agenda is in the correspondence log under Robin LaCarey, petition to amend zoning code 24052.
Point of order, the correspondence law is not a part of the agenda. This is just correspondence that we acknowledge to be received by the town. So that item is not on the agenda tonight.
I believe
Therefore,
that's inaccurate
I will
information.
respectfully, ask you to step down.
I believe that's inaccurate information. Also, we've tried to address this in many different ways. We've asked each and every one of you for an audience to talk about this petition. I'm also representing
Excuse me,
563
point of
town
order.
of Wappinger
You're
residents.
Order, you're
And
not
by the
permitted
way,
to speak
Dick, I
any
was
longer,
told,
Ms. Placari.
I was
As I
told-
said, we
I
have
was
this
told by
on
Saturday
the
you wouldn't be here,
correspondence. We are
Richard,
acknowledging receipt
because
of
you
this,
don't want to deal with this
petition, and there will
petition.
be a different date for a public hearing on this matter, so it's not appropriate
There
for
is going to
comments
be a
tonight.
date for this, to discuss this, because at this point, we want, the town of
Point of
Wappingers
order,
residents want
please.
to know why
You're
it
not
was
permitted to
eliminated.
speak any longer. I am sorry, I don't like to do this, but this is the point of order, this is the rules of the town and of the code. So you will have opportunities to speak on this, but this is not an item on the agenda for public discussion tonight. I'm sorry.
I don't agree that this is a point of order. Do you have any proof for this?
I'm the chair of the meeting, and that is my opinion, and I believe the board supports that, and I don't hear any objection from the board. You will have your chance.
Supervisor,
We're
when are you
acknowledging
going
the
to
receipt.
deal with this
I put it into
petition?
the correspondence
When
law,
are you
thanks
going
to
to be
the,
dealing with this
town
petition?
clerk's,
So-
entry. It's not appropriate for discussion
563
tonight.
Excuse
You will
me.
have your
people
chance.
have signed this petition asking you to restore zoning code 24052.
I know that you're out of order. I'm sorry.
Excuse me.
We have the petition.
We have the
We know
petition.
what it is. The board will consider that on the, no, you
Come
can't
on
bring
in.
anybody else up.
So, hold on. We need to have some order here, please.
Well, then we're going to deal with this petition.
Well, we're actually-
I want a plan to deal with this petition.
We're
And I
going
was
to-
told Richard Thurston wouldn't be here on Saturday because he refused to deal with this
That's
petition.
not accurate. Let me just say something, okay? Again, we need to follow the town board rules, okay? There needs to be an item on the agenda that is,
It is on the
indicates this,
agenda.
that it's not on the agenda,
It's not.
okay? Well, hold on, please, okay?
No, I mean, at this point,
Hold on,
there has to
please.
be some way to deal with this petition.
There is a way to deal with it.
Okay, we're waiting for it.
Okay, so what needs to happen is we need to put this on as a discussion item on a town board meeting if it is relevant to the town board, okay? This is before the planning board right now. The planning board has
No, this has
jurisdiction over
nothing to,
this.
this is the elimination of the protections from gas stations, from residential districts,
Okay.
building, the gas station building within 1,000 feet.
Yes.
It was totally eliminated by this board.
Right.
We don't have 500 feet, 200 feet, not even 20 feet.
Okay.
It was eliminated.
Understand,
How
though-
is that protecting the town of Wappinger
Understand that
residents?
the application that you folks are speaking of specifically is...
Is to the zoning code.
Please let me finish, please.
The
okay?
town's, it's the town board that did this.
Please let me finish, okay?
And you're wrong on that statement.
The application
on the
that's
town board.
before the planning
Two
board
members
right
were
now...
not part of that board.
You were not, Al. I know you weren't. I
Okay.
just can't,
Again,
stick
we
up
need
for
to
you,
have-
Al. I can't. Stick up for yourself, though.
We need
You
to
know,
have
great.
order.
We need somebody to put this
Out of
onto
order.
the agenda,
Ms.
Al.
LaCarrie, you're out of
We
order.
need
I'm
order.
sorry.
We need to, listen,
You will have your chance.
we need to understand that this application regarding this project is before the planning board right now, okay? The planning board is the authority having jurisdiction over this project. The town board made changes to the zoning code in 2019 that had nothing to do with this project, okay?
Oh, no, that's not true. No, November 2019, it was
Okay,
amended.
You need, excuse
To
me.
put
you
the
need
gas station building
Folks,
over.
you need to remain in order, or we're going to clear
But
the room.
that's not true, what you just said. It was.
Yes,
the-
it is. I've been
No.
here the longest, okay? I also represent
it
the
is.
area where this gas station is. I've spoken to you about this before. I've spoken to the,
Yes.
no, I did not mislead
Oh,
you.
yes, you said it was court order. There's no court order.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
I'm really
Excuse
sorry
me.
this has to be like this. I really
Well,
am, Dick.
Listen, you got to stop. Crosstalk. We're going to have to adjourn the meeting if this is the case, and we do not want to adjourn the meeting, okay?
We'll be
so-
back.
Excuse me?
Put us on the agenda.
We can-
Anyone,
we-
if you can put it on the
We
agenda.
can put this on the agenda.
Item 20192 on the agenda.
Which is what?
20192.
Okay.
Is the correspondence.
Right,
Therefore, the correspondence file
No.
is listed under order 2121.
Right.
Let's discuss a village law, not a
You-
project.
You cannot take an item in the correspondence law and apply it towards the town board rules as an item on the agenda. That is not
I
accurate.
don't believe that. I think that's misinformation.
Correct.
Not printed. You guys
Correct.
printed. This is the item where you list 202192.
Right.
Correspondence file. This is where you listed it. From
Yes.
Robin Licari. It is on
That's
the
only
agenda.
for acknowledgement. It is not an agenda
Sir, that-
item.
sir-
Purpose.
That is your opinion, sir. This is not an item on the agenda
Okay, do I
tonight.
have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Hold on. With all due respect to the supervisor, I think we can mitigate this
Why
right now
not?
without adjourning the meeting. So
I think so too.
Just-
This
just-
is crazy.
just give me a moment here, okay? If you would like to discuss this with the town board regarding the zoning changes that were made, we will be happy to put this on an agenda. It's not on tonight's agenda. That's the
When is it
issue.
going to go on the agenda?
We can put this on another meeting, okay? We have
When?
meetings, we have
After
to,
the planning board makes a determination, it will go on the agenda.
No, this is not about the Houstonville project. This is about the zoning code, 240-52, that eliminated our protections from gas stations building within 1,000 feet of a residential district. It's quite clear.
Right, but that
We
is-
are in the right place. This is
You gotta
this is
understand,
it.
though, you gotta understand.
You changed the zoning code, and we're
you
asking you to put it
have got
back.
to understand you gotta understand the fact that the Hamlet zone is not a residential zone, okay? There have been gas stations in the Hamlet zone. Sir,
This is about the village farm.
Sir.
They are separate issues.
sir, you gotta.
One person speaks
you
at
gotta,
a time.
You gotta just allow me to speak here, okay?
One person speaks at a time.
I have been waiting patiently to be
Okay.
recognized, sir.
Sir,
Okay.
Please, we
Continue
can-
to do so.
You got it.
we are in the, listen, folks,
No further comments.
Folks.
Mr.
Bill, I tried to have a meeting with you, and
we did have a meeting.
no, we did not have a meeting. You said that you would get back to me and advise. I haven't yet to.
Regarding, you
This
tried to
is
have a meeting
just
with me? We had a meeting at the
June-
Houstonville
excuse me,
Firehouse,
excuse
did we
me.
not?
June 3rd, I wrote, every one of the town board, I wrote
Yes,
them.
yes, you did.
Okay.
On June
And
3rd.
you said that you would get back to me and
Correct.
advise.
Well, we couldn't get back to you yet because we haven't even had a meeting since then, I don't think.
No,
We-
this is, we
On June
wanted to
3rd.
meet with you to present our petition.
Correct.
Councilman Phillips said he would love to meet with us.
Okay.
A meeting has not been set up. He even asked me when we were available. I
Right.
don't understand the procedure.
Because
You're
you-
here for us. Why, the others didn't even
Okay,
acknowledge it,
listen,
including our
I
supervisor.
responded to your email, I said I have to get back to you, and
When
I,
are we going to meet, Bill?
hold on, please,
Okay.
okay? As you know from the planning board meetings, okay, when the attorney for the applicant chastised me for having a community gathering about this project, I have to be very careful how I proceed, because this town can be sued if the town board takes a position on a project that's before the authority having jurisdiction, which is the planning board. That's why I haven't responded to your email. I had a community gathering at my firehouse that was not a government meeting, even though the applicant's attorney insists it was, okay, for the purposes of seeing the community members and talking and expressing our opinions on this project, okay? That's what I did. Legal counsel has advised me that is not a good practice. However, I did that because I wanted to make sure I heard from the residents and communicated with the residents. That said, I understand your concerns with the existing zoning code changes from 2019, okay? But what I need you to understand is the fact that those zoning code changes were part of a packet of changes that was presented to this town board. This gas station was not even something that we were even discussing at that point. It was not before the planning board. I had no knowledge of the gas station. And also understand the fact that 8 out of the 9 gas stations in this town are within 1,000 feet of a residence, okay? A residential district. So there are a lot of other variables in play here that the town board and the planning board have to keep separate, okay? You all have my, hold on, Robin, please. Robin, but understand, because you're wearing a shirt that says Houstonville, Robin, and so is everybody in the room. So why am I bringing it back to that? That's why. So that said, you all have my phone number and my email, okay? I have responded to every one of your emails, okay?
My email was never responded to by anybody. Mine either.
Well, if you sent it, hold on, ma'am, if you sent an email to me, I responded. If you sent it to the planning board puts it in the record,
No,
okay?
these
Okay.
have all been sent to the town board.
That said,
Order, please.
I don't, ma'am,
Order.
don't call me a liar, please, okay?
Could you
Please,
tell
I'm
me-
sick and tired of being made out to be some bad person here when I agree with most of what you are arguing for, okay?
And we appreciate
Okay.
that you stood up for us on May 3rd.
Yes.
We do appreciate that,
Right,
Bill.
so-
We really do.
so-
However,
Go ahead.
what do we tell, because this is the thing that we wanted to do. We wanted to present this evening
Sure.
because we are on the correspondence law.
Yes.
We have yet to have a meeting. 1, 2, 3 people didn't even acknowledge my email, not even thank you for reaching out, nothing. So what do we tell over 700 people
Mm-hmm.
that believe that we are going to present this petition tonight?
Well, here's the
That's
problem.
What do we tell them?
Here's the problem. If you were on the agenda, then we would know that you were going to be here tonight. I had no knowledge that you were going to even be here tonight.
It was on the last resolution.
It was on
the
what
next-
last resolution?
Next to the last resolution, on the
Right.
correspondence log.
Right.
It says presenting the petition.
Correct. We received it at the town clerk's office. It has been entered into the record. I appreciate everybody going and knocking on doors and getting signatures. Thank you, okay? You're doing a lot of hard work. I understand why you're doing the hard work. You know my opinion. I've talked about my opinion on this. I've been told by legal counsel to stop expressing my opinion because this application is going to be coming to the town board after the planning board rules. That's the issue I'm in. I can't sit here and opine on this anymore because it creates a potential conflict of interest. Now,
On zoning code 2452, the town board sets the zoning code. Don't
Correct.
be confusing these people. They don't know, they're lay people.
But they
They
don't-
don't know all the rules.
It's not set by petition, it's set by local law. There's a local law process. The petition is in the correspondence.
The zoning code law
Okay.
for previous protection.
Right.
That's what we're asking for. Is
Okay.
that terrible?
It's in
Why
the-
does it have to be this point?
It's been received, it's
it's been
acknowledged.
received. However, I will say this.
Discussed.
When there's an application before the planning board, you can't change laws while there's an application before the planning board, okay? Because that's like changing the rules to the baseball game in the 4th inning. When an individual
No.
comes to the town and applies for a project within a
not true.
permissible zone, the
No.
town board cannot change the zoning while that application is before the planning board.
Then they can, I have a couple of questions here, especially since we have a lawyer present. One is that I'm seeing a lot of argument about whether it is on the agenda or whether it isn't on the agenda. I would imagine that the lawyer would know state town law well enough and sunshine law well enough to be able to advise us on who's correct.
Again, it's the chairman's prerogative.
It is the chairman's prerogative. That is state town law. Okay.
And our practice
That's
has been
number
to
one.
merely-
Okay.
We merely acknowledge the correspondence file.
Right.
This has not been on the agenda, and it's not on the agenda.
Okay, now, let me also say that when I sat on the school board, that agendas can be amended. There is no reason that you can't amend the agenda for this evening, since people are expecting to speak, okay? That's number 2. Number three, I also have to add, I have been on your side of the bench, and I have been called a liar. It is very unpleasant. And yelling is not constructive. The zoning issue, all that means, all the zoning does, if you change the law in the course of approvals for this process, is that then the developer has to appeal to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a variance. Okay, so you're not just doing this law to stop this project. You're doing this law because it was done, because there is a group of people who is concerned about the environment and the water table and the wells. And there was apparently no communication on the issue of this zoning change when it was done in 2019. So because there is a new development.
Point of order, that is incorrect. This zoning change started in July of 2017.
Okay.
It was proposed to the board, and I think the Lakaris know this well, in order to address a number of issues in town, not by this board, but by previous board, and the board instructed two things in the July 17 meeting of 2017. One was to create an escrow account. Two was instructed the town planner, this is the board under the Java administration, instructed the town planner to come up with a new zoning code that would address the Route 376 Hackensack Heights across the street from the church that Mr. Lakari was also in favor of. And we have that on the record. And they instructed the town planner to undertake this. This board had no issue, despite the lies and false accusations to us, about putting this on. I had discussed this previously, when I was, involved in this. And Mr. Lakari sat through the February 2019 and the subsequent meeting. No objections were ever raised because this was benefiting Hackensack Heights to get 376 and benefiting, as was stated in the record, to get the ability to develop Route 9. This zoning change had nothing to do with Gasland in Houstonville, and the record's very clear of that. So I request you to stop
Then if it has
these
nothing-
lies and accusations now.
Okay,
because
if
this
it has
board
nothing to do
is
with the
not
Gasland,
complicit.
if it has nothing to do with Gasland, then why can't it be considered? Number one. Number two,
The whole town code, you changed the whole zoning law for one gas station out there.
no.
It was not for one gas
Robin.
station. It was
No.
for a variety, as it was stated in the record clearly, Robin. It was stated in there, if you go back to the testimony that your husband sat through in February of 2019, there was no discussion. This board had nothing to do with that. This originated earlier for the purpose of eliminating
Robin.
a lot of different problems from the law.
Which was 376.
This was why it was done.
Okay, this is just total
Period.
misinformation.
No, it's not misinformation.
My husband has no responsibility as a candidate. You do as a town supervisor. You eliminated this protection for everybody through the entire
No,
town of
at your
Wappinger.
also request, I had discussions with the church. Your husband was involved. He
Oh,
knew
you are-
about
wow,
this.
are
It's
you-
true. This is
You're
true.
really out there, Dick.
These are the facts.
Have a good
In order
day.
to
These are the
eliminate
facts.
A lot of the developmental restrictions in the town.
Does that make it a good idea, though?
It's
Just
not
because,
anything me and the
Hold on,
board of
just hold
doing
on for a
something
second.
we had nothing to do with.
All right,
so all the towns around us have this protection, but we remove it in our town of Wappinger?
that's not accurate. That is not
That's
accurate.
not-
No, it is not accurate. That is not.
We've looked at it.
Okay,
Like to see it go-
again, 8 out of the 9 gas stations in the town of Wappinger are within 1,000 feet of a residential district because they have been granted variances. Therefore, if we still had the 1,000-foot restriction within our town code, this gas station would be subject to a variance also.
So you do it by variance, you don't change the code of the whole town? No, all right.
The reason why this was changed is because of litigation that I had previously mentioned relative to the BJ's application that came before the planning board when BJ's wanted to put a gas station in at Route 9 on Old Hopewell Road. Folks, you need to get the facts. I understand there's emotions involved here. I've been on this board, sir, hold on for 1 second. I've been on this board since 2007. We don't arbitrarily make these decisions in an effort to create an inconvenience or an environmental hazard to residents. I take this very seriously. I've been here. Okay,
This is one-offs instead of changing the code throughout the whole town?
because that was the recommendation of legal counsel, sir.
When you say litigation, are you saying you changed it because you were sued?
Hold on. We had a legal issue involving BJ's, Jim, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, there's a lot more to this, folks, than you may realize.
Okay, well, let's talk about it.
Excuse me?
They can't force you to change the town zoning code just because you have a lawsuit against you.
Sir, Mr. Haran is our attorney. He can give you a little bit of information on this. It's not as simple as you make it sound.
Well, yeah, let's have a discussion about it.
Sir, hang on for 1 second, please. We just got it.
It's relevant.
I don't want to sit here and adjourn the meeting. I don't want to shut anyone down, but if we can just have one person talk at a time, it would be helpful. Jim, can you just comment on that briefly?
So, with respect to the 2,500 feet between gasoline filling stations, there's court cases that say that that is an anti-competitive, antitrust provision that is unenforceable as a matter of law by the second department. With respect to the 1,000 foot, as Councilman Beal mentioned, all but one of the gas stations in the town is within 1,000 feet of a residential district. No, they're not. Many of them have variances, and those variances are precedents for getting another variance. So if someone has a variance and stands in the same in the same situation, i.e. within, and again, most of the commercial districts in the town are one parcel wide. Most commercial properties in the town abut a residential district. Okay? So the fact that they're permitted by the code as a permitted use in the zone and then excluded by the 1,000-foot rule is a logical incongruity.
Well, that's what variances are for, right?
No, they're not. Variances are not for the standard case. Variances are for situations where there's some sort of specific criteria for the particular parcel. You don't grant a variance from the general rule just to grant a variance from the general rule. That's what the special permit criteria is for. Gas stations are permitted in the town of Wappinger and in virtually every town in New York State by special permit. And the body that grants the special permit has to look at certain criteria with respect to how it affects neighboring properties, how it affects other properties in the zone. Those are all criteria that are still in play in the zoning code. They were still in play in the zoning, they were in the zoning code before, they're in the zoning code after. A special permitted use can't be any more objectionable than other uses permitted in the zone. It requires them to not cause adverse impacts on other properties. Those are all criteria that the board, in this case the planning board, have to go through in issuing a special permit. No, and again,
And you got
but
560 some people are saying, we'd rather not have a gas station anywhere near our residential districts.
Yeah, the
then
zoning
you
code
are prohibiting gas stations in the town of Wapping.
from being in people's backyards.
No,
period.
anywhere, anywhere.
Well, you went from 1,000 feet to 0 feet. That's
Again, every commercial, I would say, with the exception of the airport industrial district.
so.
So you can put a gas station in the middle of Dutchess County Airport. But outside of that, basically, every parcel, commercial property in the town of Wappinger is within probably 100 feet of a residential district.
Yeah, but not 0.
Do you know that for a fact?
I know for a fact that it's probably on the nature of 75%. I mean, I don't know. That's the whole reason why this is not on the agenda. There is a lot of issues here that need to be discussed. Things don't get put on the agenda so that people address things on the fly.
Right.
That's the whole
So hold on.
reason
So let's do
why.
this. Let's do this. Let's let 2 more people speak, okay? And then let's get this on a workshop agenda so that we can have a conversation in a more informal process. You know, we can sit around on a Saturday morning or something like that, have everybody come in, and we can get the questions answered. There are going to be some things we can't comment on, folks, as a town board. Understand that. Okay, you've heard my comments off the campus here, and you heard me get chastised on the campus. So there's some things we can't opine on, but I think from a procedural process, it might be beneficial so you can understand what we're dealing with, okay? So this gentleman right here has been patient. If we can just get 2 minutes from you and 2 minutes from this gentleman right here, or just, we got to wrap this up in like the next few minutes because we have a lot of things here. But I want to make sure you folks have an opportunity just to, we can hear it for a few minutes, but we can't go too long. So just 2 minutes each, if that's okay, if the board doesn't have an objection.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Sir, just your name and record for the record, please. I'm sorry, name and address for the record.
My name is Benjamin Amundsen. I live at 73 Losey Road. I'm just having trouble following. I don't understand. This law was changed because of I keep hearing litigation, and okay, does that mean you want all of the residents to sue you to get it back in? I don't understand what the process is here. We think it's a bad idea to allow gas stations to be touching people's properties. That's a reasonable thing to think. I don't think it makes any sense to argue on behalf of gas stations. There's a lot of gas stations in Wappingers. We're turning into a gas station town, in my opinion. People drive through us, go from Beacon to Poughkeepsie, and adding more gas. I don't understand why we're arguing in favor of gas stations as if they're some kind of a victim. It doesn't make any sense to me. And the only reason I'm hearing that the code was changed is because, oh, we can't put any more gas stations in. I think, well, so what? Who cares? I'd rather that than have gas stations touching people's properties. That makes no sense to me. And I would really appreciate it if we could get this on the next agenda or the one after that, if that's a reasonable amount of time. I think we need more discussion on this, and I think this needs to be reverted. If we had it for so long, I don't see, have we lost a severe amount of lawsuits? Do we lose more lawsuits than we win? I'd like to know the answers to all these questions. I don't think that's the case. I think it was a pretty solid zoning code, and I think it survived for a long time. And I think that if you could, please put this on the next agenda so we can have a discussion about it. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me just say that it might be more appropriate, like I said, a workshop meeting would be more of an informal meeting that we wouldn't have anything else on the agenda, okay? I'd have to speak to my colleagues here to figure out when the best time to do that is. But like I said, some of the process questions, some of the questions that you may have on why is it this way, we might be able to answer in a format like that. And I don't want to belabor this. There's a gentleman that's been standing there. You can go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Ron Evangelista. I live in Houstonville. Bill, I just want to clarify. So I looked up other towns neighboring the town of Wappinger. So there's 5 towns counting Newburgh. They all have some kind of restriction, including Mr. Horan, including 1,000-foot, 1,500-foot separations. Some are 200-foot, some are 500-foot. They all have some kind of separation restrictions. Of the 22 towns, 8 villages in, 8 villages, 22 towns, and 2 cities in Dutchess County, I would venture to say, having not looked up all of them yet, that all of them have some kind of restriction. Unfortunately, in 2019, the town of Wappinger removed most all of them. And they added, so you had the March 2019 removal of the restrictions, and in November of 2019, the town board added apartments above a gas station in a HM zone, Hamlet Mixed Use Zone. There's only 2 Hamlet Mixed Use Zones. To say or to think that that wasn't done, those 2 in yellow are the 2 Hamlet zones.
I believe it's apartments over commercial establishments. I'm not sure it's specific to gas stations. It might be.
No, it actually
Is it
says
specific?
over
It's
gas
they're
stations.
included
So
as one of the categories.
To think
yeah.
that that wasn't done for Gasland
Yeah.
may mislead the folks in here. And I say that because that was November 13th, 2019. By December 20th, thereabouts, Gasland made a full submittal, ladies and gentlemen, 19 drawings, which means their survey was done. They already surveyed the property for the one in Houstonville I'm talking about now. 19 drawings, full engineering reports, and everything to go with it, all their applications. So within 30-some days, Gasland had a full application. They had to be aware of that zoning change for apartments above a gas station, is the only conclusion that I can come to. So that's the first point here. So all the other towns have some kind of restrictions. If the gas land, if this code were reinstituted as we're asking in the petition, along with 700 and some other people, if this were to go through, wouldn't it simply be, and it would slow down or stop Gasland in Houstonville, wouldn't it simply be that they had to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals? And then, as Mr. Haran mentioned, most of the other gas stations have variances. Wouldn't they simply just apply for variances? I would think that that's the way that would go. So I would think, and I've seen town boards, excuse me, and I've seen town boards do this before. They put it, if there's a controversy concern of the town, they put in place a moratorium, and they get a group of people to study that and make recommendations. Not only the planner, but a group of people, a committee, to study it. But a moratorium is done all the time on whatever the issue is.
Right.
And they do it all the time, and it would stop Gasland at this point in Houstonville until they work through it and you get through the moratorium. And as I said, as Mr. Haran pointed out, there's a number of other gas stations with variances. So those are all things that seem reasonable. We would certainly like and appreciate your getting this on a workshop or a regular agenda as soon as possible. It's really of concern to us, and I think, again, with 722 signatures to date, and we continue to collect, I think you have to, I'm hoping that the town board will listen to those 722 signatures of people who are concerned. Everybody we've spoken to is very concerned with this. So there's many issues here, and I've
read your correspondence too, and I appreciate you taking the time to do your research. Relative to moratoriums, I have questions about that too, and I would have to get information, and I hope that maybe we can get some more information and have a productive conversation.
I would like that too.
We do have to move on here. Is there one other person that wants to say something?
Quick,
Okay.
Gentlemen and gentlewoman, I don't pretend to be totally knowledgeable. Oh, you want my name?
I just need your
Edie
name, yeah.
Palm,
And
and
your
I live at
address.
237 Beacon Lane in Wappingers. I don't pretend to be that knowledgeable, but I'm just going to say the restrictions were dropped whenever. I understand from a very reliable source, and I mean, you have no idea how reliable this source is, that the town board approached the Neshawats to come in with this project. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Well, let me.
If I may, the man in the gray shirt with the glasses.
Yes, sir.
Was patiently waiting.
Did you want to say something, sir? You were patiently waiting. And let me just say this for the record. I had no knowledge, and I did not have any communication with Nejawat until they called me after my community gathering, very upset with me having the community gathering. So that's all I can. You can shake your head all you want, but I don't lie, okay? I'm not going to sit here and lie to the residents of the town of Wappinger, and if you know anything about me, which clearly you don't, then you would believe what I'm saying.
First of all, I thank you for recognizing me. And my apologies to you if I got heated earlier.
No, go ahead.
You can all tell
Sure.
this is a heated subject.
We need your name and address.
My name is John Tilishak. I live at 26 South Mizzier Avenue.
Thank you.
And the reason what I would like to say is, all we're asking for today, and if it is done in some future day, is not, there are two distinct issues here. One is Gasland, one is the change to the village code. If the village code is changed now.
Town code, you mean?
Town code,
Yeah,
excuse
yep.
me. Town code is changed now, then it would require any current things going on to get a variance. If that is required, it is my understanding that variance goes back to the Zoning Board of Appeal. And then the concern that people have about the safety of well water can be reviewed by them because the planning board has already given it a pass on that. So there's another opportunity simply by allowing the law to be changed. If they can get a variance, which they're entitled to, which the other 9 gas stations have gotten, they will get a variance. Then it is up to the other board to make the determination. That's all that's being asked at this point.
I appreciate you coming back up to the microphone.
Now, just as a point, my understanding, and I'm recused from the gas line application before the planning board. But with respect to, my understanding is no special, so there's 2 processes. There's a seeker process. There's actually 3 processes here. There's a seeker process, a special permit process, and a site plan approval process. So those are all three different processes. So, you know, secret determinations and site and special use permit, and they all happen in that order as well. So, you know, the process before the planning board is still ongoing. So to say the well issue has been decided, I don't necessarily believe that's a factual statement.
Forgive me, I am not suggesting it's
Right.
decided. I am simply saying, if you change the law, it allows, then it requires the zoning board to once again look at that in light of the revision. And if they need to, they can decide at that point to ask for a more full secret process.
Well, I mean,
Rather than what currently the,
and many of the issues for getting a variance are the same issues that are considered for granting a special permit. So some of it is basically redundant.
Except there'd be a seeker, which there is.
No, there is seeker. The seeker covers all, it's,
There was a negative declaration, I read it in the newspaper.
okay, but again, that binds all agencies. That would bind, the ZBA would have been bound by that
if
if.
they go back for a variance, they cannot ask for a revision of the seekers at that point, because now they're going for a different situation.
No, because it's probably the same, the ZBA would have a very difficult time if a project has been granted a seeker neg deck. It would be very difficult for that project to be pos-decked by a different agency for this on a coordinated review.
It might be correct, but they would still have to listen to it and listen to the community,
Right.
and listen to the people, and listen to what they have to say about gas stations in their backyards. And they would have to positively declare, as the board, that they are ignoring the will of the people.
Sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and folks, again, I appreciate your passion. I appreciate the fact that you all came and you did a lot of work getting these signatures, okay? Let me get this in the right form so that we can have a conversation in a meeting that is permissible and we don't have to sit here and bend the rules. Because I will tell you that the town board rules do say there needs to be a specific agenda item. The fact that you're all here, we gave you the courtesy of the floor, but we do have to move on to the next subject at this point. In the meantime, send me an email or call me if you have a question or concern, or the supervisor. If I get your email, I will respond to you. I check my email every day. And thank you again. Supervisor, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you. And do we have any more comments on the, any other of the actual agenda? You know, are there any other comments? If so, on the other items, please come up and, state your comments. Seeing none, I have a motion to
I make a
adjourn the
motion to
public
close the
portion.
public hearing.
Second. Second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you. The next item is discussion concerning the Recreation Trust Fund project list. This is just a preliminary list. Discussions with Jim Horan. We're not proposing to vote on anything tonight. He just wanted to present this. This is in line with what we had previously discussed with respect to our changes concerning the recreation fee. So Jim, why don't you just briefly summarize it? But again, we're not voting on anything tonight. This is just for you to become familiar with for a future meeting. Jim, the floor is yours.
Sure. So when we adopted the changes regarding the recreation fees that are generated from residential projects, one of the things that that legislation does is it creates the authority for the town board to adopt lists regarding the projects that would be funded by those sources. So CPL had put together a list, and we broke it out, and the legislation actually also contemplates two areas of parks. One would be central parks that are used by all the residents of the town. Parks like Carnwath, Morts Field, Schlatt House, Airport Drive, Robinson Lane, as well as the smaller parks that we have throughout the town. And that was broken up by ward as well. So there's a list of projects there. Rather than go through them all, the supervisor and I thought it best that, we could have the board members review the project list, see if there's anything there. Also, if there's priorities that need to be raised or lowered, then that would be the time to do it. I would think that, I don't believe there's any specific timing in the law that we enacted as far as when the project list would be updated, but certainly you could do it on an annual basis or maybe a biannual basis, depending on how the funding comes available. That's basically where we are here. At some point in time, what the town board would do would be to adopt by resolution the lists. And the law that was adopted, the local law that was adopted, contemplates the applicant before the planning board to have an opportunity to review the various project lists as they're going through the process to determine what funding may be appropriate for that particular project. Again, it's a non-binding suggestion from the applicant, but it's something I think that gets the planning board thinking about how the project relate to some of the park facilities in the neighborhood of the subdivision or multifamily project that's being considered.
I think this is good, thank you, but I think it would be worthwhile to have a workshop to
Sure.
discuss this. And if we could set a date, possibly sometime in July,
Yeah.
or like July 31st, or possibly the 19th, or something like that, I think it would be beneficial to everybody.
I think we should talk outside the meeting,
Yeah.
because I know that I'm going to be getting out of here for a couple weeks. I know some people are.
Right.
I haven't been away since before COVID.
I'm right there with you.
So we should figure out a time when we're all
Yes,
here. You know what I mean?
exactly.
We have to be a little flexible because
Yes.
nobody's been on vacation.
No.
And I know my
And
kids are
everybody's
getting.
cranky.
My kids are getting.
No.
cranky. But agreed. In addition, I like the fact that we have a plan here, right? We have a spreadsheet here, and we're going to need to do the same thing in anticipation of the federal funding that's coming in. We're going to need to really be organized at that approach. And I know that Tim has a number of priority capital improvement projects, infrastructure projects that can benefit the town for the next 50 years that we really should look at, right? Or plus, we should look at. So that should be part of a workshop as well.
Right, but, so this is something we're going to discuss and get together and have a date.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Sure.
Any other comments? Okay, let's move on to, Tim Moot will give us an update with respect to Carnwath, Spook Hill Park, and also we'll have some discussion on Rockingham, the building demolition. So Tim, why don't you take the floor at this point?
Thank you, Supervisor. So quickly on Carnwath roof, it seems like it's been a while since the board and we discussed a proposal. I had Tom Harvey from our office look up the specifics, and they were provided a notice to proceed May 7th. So while we had talked about it, it took a little time for them to get the formal green light. Since then, they have ordered the specialized tarp. It's like a commercial grade tarp. It's not a tarp that you just pick up at the Home Depot. Our office is in touch with them weekly, and we're waiting on them to provide a confirmation number that the tarp has been shipped. So once we get that, then things will be put in motion and we'll have a schedule of physical work. Relative to Spook Hill, and I'll reach out to Steve a little bit on this, but my understanding is the parking area is ready to be paved. The weather didn't quite cooperate last week, and with this week, the early rain. So if the weather does break and things dry out, what do you think, Steve? Maybe by the end of this week? Probably into next week to be safe. And then I think we're looking at the fence contractor through the town. Does that sound right, Steve? Fencing would be a contracted item, and then it's the trusses on the building.
The fencing, I think we signed the
I
contract.
think it was
Yeah.
close.
Right, I'm
I
not
know
sure
I-
where we are with the fencing, because I think the contractor that we had then declined the job. so
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
No, so we signed, I want to say we went with Adams.
Adams,
Right,
that's right.
Right, and we
'Cause the
initially
first
had
guy-
a different contractor.
He
He didn't have the proper
misunderstood.
credentials, I guess, right?
No, he misunderstood the job.
Okay.
And he was, it was apples and oranges quote. So the next lowest bidder was Adams, and last week I approved the contract and the insurance certificates. The last thing I got was one of the insurance certificates. So I think they're in a position for a contract award.
Right, I know Adams is jammed up due to COVID problems along the way. I had contracted a job with them last fall that we're still waiting to be done because of the COVID. So I can't tell you when the fencing would be available.
Okay, and the main thing was we got the contract in order, so that's, the next thing is commitment to schedule.
We're just about at the position of having the building ready to put the trusses on.
Yeah.
And then put the roof on.
Okay, so things are happening out there, which is progress, which is great.
Oh, I wanted to mention something too. I was out there with the recreation director and the playground company, and I had discussed that we were going to build a pad, so a level pad for a proposed new playground. Well, Clove did that with the spoils at no additional cost for us, and I just wanted to give them a public thank you for that.
Okay. And then,
Thanks, Steve.
Yep, thanks, Steve. Relative to Rockingham, we have our pre-construction kickoff meeting with the county as it's being funded, and that's scheduled this week on the 16th. Once we have that, we generally get submittals, product submittals, and a schedule. So the next meeting, I can basically share the schedule
Okay.
that we get, hopefully. And then with that, Councilman Casella, you want to talk about the dugouts? I got them on the screen there.
Yes, thank you for being able to pull those couple of beautiful charts of the dugouts. I like the way it looks now. So what I wanted to do is I've met with a number of the officials from Little League Baseball, and there's a couple of issues, and Steve, I know you're aware of these. R3 in particular. So R3, we've got the uneven dugouts. So if you look at the slats that are inside there for the dugouts, and we talked about this going back probably over a year or so ago, and I know it's on part of Steve's priority for the 100-plus jobs he's got out there, but it's getting a lot worse now. And with us fronting those fields out, we need to make sure that they're safe. That's a specific field, R3. It's a 50-70, so it's more of a Cal Ripken field, so it's a very special field. It's a 50-70, so 50 feet to the pitcher's mound, 70 for the bases. Again, it's something very unique. 12 and 13-year-olds play that. Typically, it's a 9 to 12-year-old and a 13 to 16-year-old. So that's one of the fields, again, we need to do something with, and I'll ask you in a second, because I think you have some ideas on the tarps you can use. And if you take a look at R4, which is the farthest field all the way in the back, I guess a number of months ago, the roof blew off that. So what we have is a number of cinder blocks on the top that have actually fallen. I know Steve and his team have put them inside a dugout, but again, a safety issue. So what we'd like to do is see if there's something we can't do to try to expedite this, get some of the work done. If Steve, you're too busy to do it, maybe we think about subbing it out. But we certainly need to get the work done, and maybe we can go out and get some bids. So I don't know, Steve, if you want to make any comments on that at all.
I would like to add that seeing these conditions, Steve, I strongly recommend that we immediately tape it off and fence it off. Do not allow anyone to continue to use these dugouts.
Yeah, we've done that numerous times, and they get
I
removed
know,
by the
but
ball
put a
players.
fence up around it. We cannot allow people to come into those dugouts, okay?
Are those fields still in use?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's a problem.
Especially R3.
Right.
I don't know what your schedule is, but
Step up the mic because Dick can't hear you. There you go. And just identify yourself because he can't see you.
Sorry. The R3.
Sir, you are again, just so he can hear you.
Jeff Tomlins, I'm the president of Town of Wappingers Little League.
Thanks.
We don't really use R3.
Okay.
You rent that field a lot, almost every day during the spring into the summer. So you have people paying to go on that field. And there was a time, both Steve and us had roped off those dugouts, and when those travel teams come, they just rip down the stuff and use them. And
So they're paying to rent these fields that are in this condition?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I don't understand why that
And
is.
it's not just the dugouts. The R4 fencing is pretty good, but the R3 fencing, it's been hit so many times with the mowers that the bracing on the fencing in numerous areas is pulled apart. And just recently, I told Al that the bottom of the fencing is now, the prongs are facing into the field of play.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yeah, so I think it's a lawsuit waiting to happen, but
Yeah.
it's.
Yeah.
It's unsafe, we'll say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unsafe, so it needs to be shut down.
Right.
So the only problem that you have is that you're only 50/70 field, correct?
Can we
So-
snow fence in further than, is there a way we can put temporary fencing in that's ahead of where that metal is exposed? Or will that mess up the dimensions?
No, it doesn't touch
No,
the
it's in foul
dimensions. It's just,
territory.
yeah. So the biggest issue, I think,
I don't really know if you're talking about like that plastic
Yeah.
fencing. I don't know
Yeah, I
how.
don't think that's
if
gonna
somebody
work.
if a kid ran into
Oh,
that.
right,
I
right.
Yeah,
don't
that's
know.
not going to do anything.
We have a lot of extra metal fence over at Carnwest, so I suggest that we get that up there right away.
Okay.
so we do have rolls there. We did see a number of rolls of the fence. You know, it's probably from, I guess, over at Carnworth, Steve, so it's probably rolls from Carnworth, but it looks like it's salvageable, and maybe we can use that. It's certainly not going to probably help your outfield where you have that orange or now yellow fence out there on R3, but, you know, that might be able to help some of the problems we have along the foul ball territory, so that's something we could take a look at.
And if I could just add
Sure.
about the R3 dugouts, and I've said this, and I know Steve had asked me what I thought the travel teams would be okay with. If you want to rebuild them, fine, that's, you know, great, that would be nice to do that. But if you're looking to save money on R3, if you knock them down, put a roof and a bench, some gravel on the ground.
That's it.
That would be fine for that.
For the
The
condition.
R4 one, I think you have to fix that, because the first base dugout is fine. And, yeah, and it's got storage, and that's just the one side that needs to.
Now, Tim does have a recommendation, because we were talking about exactly what you just talked about. Can you put something up there temporary, like a tarp kind of thing? I don't know if you have any
I
diagrams of
don't
that,
have
Tim.
a picture of the tarp, but we do this a lot for school districts because it's a different political story with them, but they're structures, and when you have a structure on school property, it's an SED number, and it's a whole sort
Right.
of thing. So
Restrictions.
what a lot of the districts are doing now is basically, you know, we fence in the area of the dugout, include a bench, a concrete pad, kind of similar to what you're describing. And depending on the fence height, there's some basic canvas, you know, like a shade canvas. It's not necessarily meant to keep you out of the rain, but it's just more to give you shade during the summer months, and it's easily to take down. So a lot of the districts are opting into this much more simpler arrangement, you know, so something to consider. I can get more ideas.
Yeah, can you get more information on that? Because I think we're still considering using R3 if we can, right? Because again, you have the Cal Ripken League there that kind of plays there now, and you got one or two teams that are playing there now. So again, what we like to do is make this as safe as possible in the shortest amount of time if we can. So you can try to get some estimates on that, and I'm not sure what we do about the demolition of the dugouts, but maybe Steve, if you have a suggestion, maybe a company, we can go outside and potentially ask them to take it down, see what the cost would be, and move forward with that.
And I'll say for the Little League side, the R4 dugout, I am anticipating, based on how well things went this year for us, that we're going to be using that field, or we would like to, if that dugout's fixed, use that field a lot more next year than we have in the last couple, so. Anybody has any questions?
So there's a couple other things while you're here, since you brought them up with me. Two things, and one of these actually involves Steve. So the lights going there, the decorative lights, I'll call them the traffic lights, not traffic lights, but the lights going in at the light. I know we need a timer on that, right? So we're talking about getting a potential timer on it, because otherwise you have to manually turn them on before they had a timer. So if we can somehow, and Steve, I don't know how simple it is. I know you did something on, I think on Holt Field, you said? They did a timer update on that?
Can you do a photo sensor on the lights?
Excuse me?
Can you do a photo sensor on the lights? They turn on when it gets dark and turn off? Oh, then again, they,
Turn off
oh, you're
in
right,
the
then,
morning and
yeah,
your-
you're right.
Your neighbors will complain about that.
Yeah, good point.
You know, this was just mentioned to me a day or so ago. I haven't had time to speak with the engineers on, I have some ideas, but I want to coordinate with the Little League on what they
Okay.
actually want in order to give you an educated answer.
Okay. If you can get us something back in, say, 2 weeks, next town board meeting, that'd be great. And I guess the last thing we want to talk about is F3, so the lights on F3.
Oh, yeah.
So-
That is recent. I was just kind of told this within the last few days. Obviously, we have some parents that are electricians. For a period of time now, the
Left field.
right?
Yeah, left field lights.
Field lights, that trips a lot, and then you gotta throw the breaker, throw it back on, and get them, and you gotta play with it a little bit. But anyway, this electrician, the last time, went and looked, and I guess the breaker, he said all the breakers need to be changed, and that it's
Panels getting
really hot, and there's gonna be a fire soon.
Well, that's not good.
So that's, he said that was really bad.
Where's that panel located?
Right by F3, left field fence.
Is it, it's on the fence, or is it in a?
No, it's,
off the fence.
it's, I would say about halfway between the field and the road.
Yeah.
It's kind of in that.
So it's a standalone.
Yeah, it's a
big-
standalone.
It's a big
It's a
panel.
standalone circuit thing.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Now, that light has been an issue for a while as far as kicking off.
For a couple of years.
Yes, and now,
Couple of years.
like I said, this electrician is saying this thing is red hot, and it's,
So that's why I wanted to bring it to the board's attention, because we're going to have to act on these things relatively quickly, I think.
and I think he had said that, I'm assuming that just changing the breakers might be enough. I'm not an electrician, I don't know.
Breakers when the lights went in. I'm just looking at them. I do believe just changing the breakers will solve that problem.
Okay.
I
So-
think an electrician
So how can we
should
get,
give
how can we get
us-
somebody over there to take a look at it, I
Yeah.
guess is the
Yeah.
question.
I mean, if they're a licensed
Professional.
electrician, they should
Yeah.
probably talk to Barbara Roberti and make sure that there's no, permit process, not that you're gonna pay a permit, but we should follow our own rules. In other words, if an electrician does work on the panel, then an electrical
Yeah.
inspector, who's
Sure.
another electrician, comes and looks at it.
We didn't do anything.
No, what I'm saying is if we're gonna do that, we wanna follow our rules, right? So what I would say is, Al, maybe you should talk to Barbara Roberti and say, hey, listen, can they have a licensed electrician do the repairs? And then should we have one of our electrical inspectors, which is another electrician, that comes and looks at it and signs it off? It's just checks and balances. This way we're following the same standard that everybody else in the town follows.
And it's a safety thing.
I haven't asked anybody either, I didn't ask them to.
Oh,
do
okay.
it.
No, we're just following up because you brought it to our attention, so
If
we
you
just want
have
to make
somebody
sure
who wants to do the
it
work
gets
for free,
attention.
that's even better.
And
That's
they're
where I was
lic-
going.
And as long as they're
Trust me, we do.
licensed.
With everything, we do try and get that
We'll
done,
pay for the
but-
breakers.
Jeff will come in with curly hair next time we see him.
And as long as
Hey.
water's not pouring into the panel, we're good.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right there. So there is one last thing you asked for clarification on. This goes back to Tim, I apologize. The sewer line for the ADA building, is that going to go through SL1 or go around SL1? Because that seems to be an issue, so I just want to again bring that to your,
So all the sewer stuff goes around the outside of the play area. So here's, the end of Challenger Field, here's the building. And
by the way, we gave him the answer before he came here.
so
Okay.
everything's on the outside, but we do have a water service that does run. Can you see my mouse? I'll try to follow it. So it does run through this one.
What field is that right there?
This is Challenger Field, so it's the one right behind
The
Challenger.
green one is Challenger,
Yeah.
and the SO one's the one.
Yeah, SL1 is the one over about the Senior League Field.
So this line right here is gonna be a 2-inch plastic water line that, can be trenched in. It has to be separated from the sanitary.
Alright, so that line's going through the parking lot of the.
Here's the parking lot, so this is gonna, yeah.
So it's basically just behind the building, you have a field with us on one going.
Yes. Steve said it's going through the outfield.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
All right, so that's the field that we use all the time for our kids. We have the town rent out whole, and that's helped too.
Too, right.
If you're digging a hole, a trench through there, one, we're gonna need someplace to play. And you need to make sure that it gets resodded and all
Yeah.
of that stuff.
Well, when is your season over?
November? Because you have fall ball.
Yeah, so, and we have All-Stars about to start, which are gonna go.
Well, I think so like I mentioned earlier, we're gonna have our pre-construction meeting this week. And generally, we ask the contractor for their schedule, and we'll have to talk with you guys when we get closer to when that work is really gonna happen. And see if there's something we can work out.
Yeah, because you won't start till again till what, March? Mid-March, end of March next year. So you probably get, yeah, so you probably got November to March sometime?
Yeah, after fall ball, we won't start again until March.
Okay.
But I mean, I think our contract's like 180 days, it's county funded, so we're really gonna have to coordinate with you, but there's an outside chance, you know.
So if you can, I guess, we want to keep Jeff, and I assume that's Dave. And we want to keep those guys in the loop as to what we're doing here. So if you'd also keep me informed too when you have the meeting, so I can always pass the information back to them so that they know, you know, when the fields are going to be available, when they're not going to be available, and et cetera. So if you can do that, I appreciate that.
Yeah, keep us informed too, please.
Anything else? I think I've answered most of your questions.
I'm gonna let everybody know once I get.
Good
seriously,
idea.
You know, and-
Thank you.
Anything else, Jeff, Dave? Okay, good. Thanks for coming tonight, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I inadvertently skipped Rockingham, but if we want to talk quickly, so we hired Quest to do the sampling. They said they couldn't enter the building. We deemed the building, it's going to be all treated as hazardous asbestos material. Quest is a specialty firm, and we've worked with them a lot on various projects, and there's a process that they follow. We have a proposal, which I think, did it go in your package from Quest? You see that? But they have a $4,500. It's not in there?
No.
So they have a $4,500 proposal in front of us to basically prepare documents they need to submit to the New York State Department of Labor for a site-specific variance. And then the state basically reviews the application, grants the variance, then Quest would prepare, you know, site-specific plans that we can use to go to bid. We have the front-end documents and our site plan material ready to go to bid, but we need this specialty document.
So you have a letter of condemnation from the town to go ahead and do that?
So part of the process is the building has to be condemned. Working with the building department, our architect wrote a letter saying this building needs to be condemned. So that's part of the process. So now the town reciprocates that with the condemnation.
And then you send the application to New York State?
So all that's part of the application to New York State, correct?
Process.
So how long we think for the process? I mean, I know the variance probably takes some time to get it.
It's tough to say anytime you're dealing with New York State. You know, we got to put together the package. So, you know, I apologize. I didn't know when this came in here actually, but the question was, you know, should CPL hire Quest as a sub to them and build a town, or should the town just hire kind of Quest and we work with them, you know, together? I can share the proposal with everyone. But we need probably a week or two to get the package into New York State, but once that's submitted, I can't comment on how long the state would take to review something like that. But I mentioned to you that we're striving to get this done by August.
End of August, all right.
Maybe we'll be lucky it'll be done before the end of the year.
I mean, once we get through all I think the paperwork's gonna be the hardest thing, because I mean.
So is the
we
right-
don't see
so
that
you
much
need-
to take this thing down.
So Tim, do you need money, the $4,500 up front now to start this, or? how
Or
does that
just
work?
an authorization or acknowledgement that, you know,
Because we probably should go through the normal process of,
Yeah.
you know, approval with the board and stuff, so.
I mean, you could do it right now. You know, it's a professional contract. It's a specialized service. So it's not subject to, you know, competitive bidding or anything like that.
Will this come out of the United Water, or does it
Yes,
come out of?
United Wappinger Water District.
Okay.
So I guess the only question is, do you want to make them subcontractor to you?
In the
or-
interest of time, and if it's going to be protocol for the board, I'll just go ahead and, get it going now, and we can work it out at the next
I
meeting.
think
or what
that's the
have you.
best thing to
Okay.
do, move it.
Let's move it along.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I've been involved in some asbestos removal jobs, and as Tim said, the paperwork is,
Oh.
it takes you maybe a half a day to take the building down,
And it's going to take you 4 weeks to do the paperwork.
at least.
I'm only,
And the answer is getting somebody out of, because it goes to the Department of Labor.
Yeah.
And, at one point in time, people from the Department of Labor, everybody in the Department of Labor was in unemployment.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they've cleared that up yet, but, that's the thing, so, yeah.
Yeah, we got to move on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Tim, go ahead.
Whatever.
Thank you.
I believe that's all I had, Supervisor.
Any other discussion, comments? Okay, seeing none, let's move along to our resolutions. Resolution 2021-84. This is a resolution authorizing, subject to permissive referendum, the reconstruction of and construction of additions to various highway department buildings and facilities in and for the town of Wappinger, Dutchess County, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $1,250,000, and authorizing the issuance of $1,250,000 bonds of said town to pay the costs thereof. We've discussed this before. Jim, would you just like to briefly summarize one more time?
Yeah, so this is a bond for the phased approval of the repairs in the highway garage that we discussed, I guess, at the last, at the workshop meeting.
Right.
The only thing that was not included in this proposal was the sign painting.
Well, the sign
Yeah,
painting
the
was
painting.
part of that, and I think we're going to remove that. That's how,
Yes.
I
Right,
think it's
so
down
that-
to the
Right.
1250.
So that's where the 125 came from, the number was higher. So this is it's subject to permissive referendum, and it's longer than 5
Can I
years.
ask you something?
Sure.
Does this include the wash for the
No.
trucks?
No.
No.
And the salt? No, should it be?
It's a lot more money, Tim. You can give him a price, but he gave me an estimate today of like $1.5 million.
Yeah, so we did a highway truck wash facility for the town of LaGrange back in 2017, which was pretty much a standalone operation, and that was back in 2017, $1,263,895, just for the building and the truck wash. And what I would point out to the board, you need to consider two other things. One is water, which, we have the village connection there, I
Right.
believe, and then it's sewer. So LaGrange does not have a sewer connection, and neither would the town. So what needs to be considered is a holding tank for the wash water.
Right.
Now, we had worked with DEC, and I believe they got a beneficial use determination that if the concentration of chloride is high enough in that collected wash water, it can be reused on the road.
Right.
Otherwise, if the concentration isn't appropriate, it needs to be pumped and hauled to
Someplace.
a wastewater
Right.
treatment plant. So that's like an operational cost to consider, on top of everything else, so.
I think in the past, the highway department.
They go to LaGrange.
Right.
Right. Or even, Angela, didn't you say something about
Well,
Beacon too?
Beacon has one too, and
Right.
it's up to Mike. I mean, Beacon is closer. We just know gas, the way the prices are going up, is
Depends
something
on
we
where they are
should
in
consider.
Depends on where they are in town.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
But, the benefit is the life of the vehicle.
Sure.
So that might be something we should look at down the road.
Well, I'd like to make the motion going forward.
I'll second it.
Yeah.
Okay,
All in
motion
favor?
second, all in favor?
Aye.
Well, since,
Aye.
on a bond resolution, should be a roll call vote.
Okay.
Roll
Okay.
call. Okay, very good. Town clerk, Mr. Paoloni, please.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, the yeas have it, and no nays or abstentions, so the motion passed. Thank you, the resolution passed. And then, what's the date of the, is there any future date, Jim, that we need to pay attention to?
On the,
Yes. Yeah, what's the next step?
Oh, so the next step, the town clerk will publish a notice of adoption, and then there's a 30-day estoppel period.
Okay,
You've got all those
Very good,
documents,
thank
right?
Thank you.
Do we know the percent we're going to be charged? Is it 2%, 2.5%? Just out of curiosity. I mean, it's not a big difference in.
You're not going to know until the offer.
Okay. It's not a big difference if you use 30 years, it's like 55K a year, or 59K if you use 2.5%. So it's not a big difference. I'm just curious. Okay, thank you.
okay, thanks. Next item is Resolution 2021-85. This is a resolution accepting undertaking secured by cash deposit in connection with Poughkeepsie Nissan. This is a $60,000 cash deposit. Is Barbara there? I can't see the update. So.
Yes, she's here, Barbara.
Okay, Barbara, would you like to just briefly explain it? Thank you.
She's coming up.
She was at the gas station.
So Nissan is before the planning board, and there was also a lot line realignment with an easement, and what used to be Nissan's used car is now going to be a company called Plimpton. Plimpton was approved, the lot line realignment was approved, and Nissan has not been approved pending a lighting photometric plan. So to ensure that they come back, they're posting a bond, and this will allow us to file the lot line and allow Plimpton to then move forward. So they did deliver a $60,000 cashier check this morning with a filled-out performance agreement.
Is Plimpton the toilet place, or is it?
Yes, it's like a bathroom.
Bathroom showroom
and-
place.
And supplies.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks,
I'll
Bob.
move it.
I'll second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you. The next item is Resolution 2021-86. This is a resolution authorizing the naming of a private road for the Cohen subdivision. This is for Sunset Court. I think it's a relatively simple matter. You know, Jim, do you have any comment you'd like to make?
Yeah, no, you spelled it out. It's a 3-lot subdivision, and, you know, under the Dutchess County 911 rules, was it more than 3 or more?
3 or more.
3 or more requires a private road name. So-
Right. I spoke to Larry Brody about this. This is a formality to do this name. There are some other issues in the town. Jim Tompkins previously handled these things. Larry now has been assigned to addressing, and there are some conflicts that you'll see coming in the next couple months. The idea here is that each one of these parcels has a unique street number on a unique street name, so that if someone calls 911, whether it be on a landline or a cell phone, you know where the person is. So
it's a safety issue. Big
correct.
safety. Yep.
So I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you. The next 3 items on the agenda, items 4, 5, and 6, are concerning grant applications that we are, in a couple cases, resubmitting. I'd like, Tim to just briefly overview those, and then we'll go through each resolution for a vote and any other specific questions. But Tim, why don't you first highlight, what we're trying to do here?
Sure. So 2 of the 3 are related to the Wildwood Sewer project. We previously had applied for funding and was not awarded. In our presentations, these 2 grants that are being offered, one with the WQIP would really help with like construction costs. So these are really just tweaking what's been resubmitted and denied and getting it into the next pool.
So we got originally, about 2.4 million on the first grant, and now we're looking to do part 2 of that, which could be.
Part 2 would be, I think, about the same amount almost. I mean, it would really cut the cost.
So the total project was about 5.5 million? something?
5.5 million.
Okay, so you take basically 4.8, you almost have grant funds for it.
Right, yeah.
Great.
It's really, on paper, it looks very appealing.
Good.
But again, COVID shot everything down, and we're reapplying for the new pool. And then on the Resolution 88 is again a resubmission of the LWRP, which is shorthand for the Local Waterfront Revitalization Program. Again, this is the study that we were talking about, and we had previously applied, and it was denied, but I think we spoke at the workshop, and I think Jim looked it up at the time, because there was no funding last year, that I think this went from like a $500,000 or $600,000 pool to like a $2 million pool or something.
Wow. Yeah.
So we're hoping that with the more funding available, more projects will.
We have a
And-
chance.
And the grant pool is for study, for planning and study purposes. It's not a construction. So this particular grant is a study rather than a particular construction project.
And we had talked all things with Chelsea boat launch and then going up the creek, maybe the county property there by Old Troy Road, and then continuing on up to the
Reese Park.
boathouse, the Reese Park and the boathouse.
Yeah.
So, there's some real highlights along that run that could qualify. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll go to the first resolution, Resolution 2021-87. This is a resolution to authorize an application for a grant under the Local Government Efficiency Program in connection with Wildwood Sewer District Consolidation. Again, Tim Moot, CPL, also Scott Williams and myself have been working on this, and I certainly join in with Tim in recommending that we approve it.
I'll move it. I'll second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Next item is Resolution 2021-88. This is a resolution authorizing an application for a grant under the Local Waterfront Revitalization Program in connection with Waterfront Revitalization Strategy. Again, working with Tim, Scott Williams, everyone, on this particular grant, and I believe it will really help us. We didn't get it the last time, but guardedly optimistic for this time. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion?
Second.
Okay, motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you. The next item is Resolution 2021-89. This is a resolution authorizing application for a grant under the Water Quality Improvements Program in connection with Wildwood Sewer and Woodhill Green wastewater consolidation.
I'll move it.
Any questions? Again, we're working together on this, and I'd be happy to share with you the applications as they're finalized. But any other questions?
Has
I'll
there,
move it.
has
Okay,
there been any more correspondence with Woodhill Green?
I'm sorry, I did not hear that. Tim?
Has there ever been any more correspondence with Woodhill Green?
Not per se. We had a meeting here in Town Hall with the village last week, I believe it was. Was it 2 weeks ago? Monday? Yeah, was it last Monday?
Last Monday.
So, and that was all with respect to the village interconnect. And basically out of that meeting with the village, it seems that the village portion of the interconnect, which we would rely on for our components, has been stymied due to lack of funding on the village side. I guess I'm slated to do a presentation to the village next week on the town's behalf and how important, that initial phase is. During that discussion, we segued to Woodhill, and in looking back, and I guess the village's engineer kind of reiterated that there was a sequencing to occur in all these projects that are sort of intermixed, and Woodhill was a key part of it. And I think the way they wanted it was the village interconnect, then Wildwood Sewer, and then Woodhill Green. So it's on our to-do list, but based on that recent meeting, it's kind of secondary now. We need to focus on getting
Right. I'm just wondering how that association is reacting to the tie-in.
how the association's
That
reacting.
is reacting to the whole tie-in.
Oh,
because
well-
it could be considerable cost.
So the HOA, because they got to
Yeah.
pass the cost
So
on.
that's on me to set up with the agency. It's just that based on what we found out a week ago, kind of.
Yeah, I think we still want to try to meet with them. We've, committed in the past to try to meet. I think really the monkey wrench that was thrown at us, last week, and we can discuss more, later, but was really that despite what had been previous commitments to us that the village had money, quote unquote, the funds are exhausted at this point in time. I won't go into that here, but so we're looking at what does that mean really to us and our ability to continue to service and to do the things that we need to do for our community. So we're working on that, maybe another option as well.
Well, I'll second
I
that
think
motion.
right now, we try to proceed so we can get at least some, additional, funding, for this in case that the village is not able to satisfy fully what they had committed to do, Chris.
I'll second the
That's
motion.
approach we're taking.
So we had a motion from me and a second from Chris.
Right.
Okay, motion and second, yes, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passes. Thank you, and we'll keep you up to date. The next item is related to the earlier public hearing, and that's Resolution 2021-90, a resolution adopting local law number, it's not filled in, of the year 2021 entitled Town of Wappinger Cross Connections Control Law. Mr. Clerk, do you have a number for this?
That's not relevant at this point. It's when it's filed that's important. The number's not relevant at this point.
He said,
Okay.
yeah, he doesn't need it.
Yeah, the
Are you up, Bill?
Secretary of State gives it the number.
No, I give it the number, but it has to be filed in order to whichever one comes to.
Right.
All right, I'll move the local law.
Second.
Okay, a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. The next item is Resolution 2021-91. It's a resolution acknowledging the appointment of the clerk of the court, deputy court clerk, and clerks to the justice. This is as a result of Judge Kitchen's recommendations. I've had a number of discussions, I think Sarah has, and and Jim Horan advised that, from the town point of view, since we have responsibility for, officially for the payment, the resolution should be passed by the board, although the court has the right to make certain appointments, and these are recommendations with which I join with Judge Kitchen on that. Jim, do you have any other comment, before we get a motion?
No, and, these are our promotions and as a result of Cheryl, our longstanding court clerk who's retired, who will be missed.
And we are saving $16,873 even with the
Yes.
promotions here, so
I
I'll
make a
move this one.
motion, a second.
Sorry.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. The next item is Resolution 2021-92, acknowledgement of the correspondence log. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Okay, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion, passed. Thank you. The next item is, Jim Horan is going to discuss, Jim, is it still relevant to talk to tax cert? Have you reached agreement on that?
No, the tax cert is still pending.
Okay, still pending, okay, thank you. That's why we put it here. We didn't know whether or not
Yep.
there would be an agreement in time for this meeting, so we'll defer that, for a future date. Does anyone else, before we have a motion go in executive session, anyone else have any items for?
I
special
do, actually,
consideration?
and I don't know, Barbara's still here, so I don't know, Barbara, if you wanted to talk about this vehicle repairs for the building department? Do you want to bring it?
The car, the truck.
The vehicle repairs for the AC, did you want to talk about that briefly?
Okay.
Right.
Just quickly, our vehicles are only a few years old, but they're now out of warranty. So
Can you state your name and your address?
Yeah, Dick can't hear you.
Who are you? No.
Who are you?
sometimes I wonder. Our vehicles are 5-6 years old, so they're out of warranty. So for a long time, we kept a large number in for repairs because we had very old vehicles. So with the new vehicles, we lowered down to $1,000 in each budget line, figuring it would just be oil changes and those type of things. One of our vehicles now needed air conditioning repair, so the bill was over $1,300. So I'm asking you to take out of
Transfer.
the B fund a couple of $1,000s with the thought that the other vehicles are going in for registration, certification.
We don't need air conditioning, do we?
They have
Well,
windows.
the week that it went, it was like
Of course, it was the
95.
95-degree week.
Today, we need heat. but-
Right. I'll move that we authorize $2,000 from B fund balance into the building department vehicle repair line.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Thank you. So do I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss contract and personnel issues?
A
Okay,
second.
move second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you. Till we